Hello there, very good evening to you and welcome to Weekend Primetime News. I'm Nadim Majid. Let's start off with a look at the news making headlines this evening. Minister Mahinda Samarasinha says that the final draft of the US-sponsored resolution on Sri Lanka is yet to be presented to the UN Human Rights Council. The two containers that led to much controversy opened today. President concludes an official visit to Japan. Allegations made that the Central Cultural Fund had neglected the security at the Lions Paw in Sigiriya. Sri Lanka cricket elections rescheduled for the 16th of next month. On to our top story tonight. Minister Mahinda Samarasinha, the Presidential Special Envoy on Human Rights, says that the final draft of the US-sponsored resolution on Sri Lanka is yet to be tabled at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. Speaking to News First over the phone from Geneva, Minister Samarasinha said the final draft will be tabled in the course of next week.
Well, the very fact that it was adopted unanimously in itself shows that a very clear majority of the countries who participated in the working group and also took the floor yesterday has accepted that we have fulfilled a number of pledges that we made in 2008, which was the first UPR, and that we have shown progress and that we are committed to showing further progress. There is time till Tuesday for a revised draft to be presented. So really it's on the basis of the revised draft that countries would start taking positions. So at the moment actually there are three drafts which have been circulated. One actually is the second draft which has been already deposited. The third draft was introduced last week at an informal, but it hasn't been submitted as a revised draft. So we have to wait and see till Tuesday to ascertain as to what the final draft would be.
Well, India hopes that the investigations of allegations of human rights violations and loss of civilian lives in Sri Lanka will be independent and credible. Circulating a statement yesterday on the adoption of the report of the Working Group on the Universal Periodic Review of Sri Lanka at the 22nd session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, the Indian representative thanked Sri Lanka for its constructive engagement with the second cycle of the Universal Periodic Review mechanism. The statement reads that India appreciated Sri Lanka's acceptance of India's recommendation to implement the recommendations of the LLRC report and to promote trilingual policy. The statement added that India hopes other issues like early progress towards reconciliation, reduction of high security zones, return of private land by the military and phasing out of the security forces in civilian activities in the northern province will be done in an effective and timely manner. Noting that welcome progress has been made in resettlement and rehabilitation, the statement added that India looks forward to the speedy resolution of residual issues pertaining to resettlement and rehabilitation. Noting the commitment of the Sri Lankan government to holding provincial council elections in the northern province in September 2013, the statement says that it is India's expectation that the people of the province would be able to exercise their democratic right as guaranteed by the Sri Lankan constitution. While wishing Sri Lanka success in the implementation of its recommendations, India said that it also urges the Sri Lankan government to expedite the process of a political settlement and work towards genuine national reconciliation. Meanwhile, the leader of the Tamil Nadu political party, the Dravida Munnetra Kalagam or DMK, M. Karunanidhi, says that the resolution on Sri Lanka at the Human Rights Council needs to be strengthened with a firm demand for an independent international probe into allegations of human rights violations. India's The Hindu newspaper quoted Karunanidhi as saying, quote, "If this demand is not conceded, I categorically state our continuation in the ministry will be meaningless," unquote. Karunanidhi has said that the Indian government should without hesitation introduce an amendment to the US-sponsored resolution, stating that such an investigation be completed in a proper time frame. Sri Lanka's High Commissioner to India, Prasad Karyavasam, in an interview with Indian media, said that while there would be disappointment if India were to support a resolution on Sri Lanka, this would not affect the relationship between both nations.
India is a leading power in the region and they are a friendly country with Sri Lanka, so not going to affect our long-term relationships. And we best that, there will be a lot of disappointment if that happens, but That is just one episode in our long history.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa has sent his good wishes to Pope Francis today. President Rajapaksa has said that His Holiness has been elected as the supreme leader of the Catholic Church in a significant era when the world is facing unprecedented social and economic challenges, and as such there is a greater yearning for peace and harmony in the different theatres of conflict. The President also expressed confidence that the warm relationship between Sri Lanka and the Holy See would be further strengthened during the pontificate of His Holiness Pope Francis. Well, President Mahinda Rajapaksa, of course, arrived in the island today following a 4-day official visit to Japan. Presidential Media Coordinating Secretary Vijayananda Herath said that the President arrived in the island at 1:30 this morning.
Prior to leaving Japan, the President met with the staff of the Sri Lankan Embassy in Japan. Subsequently, President Mahinda Rajapaksa also took part in religious observances held at the Lankaji Buddhist temple in Japan, presided by the chief incumbent of the temple, Venerable Banagala Upatissa Thera, and members of the Mahasangha. The President's media unit said that later on the President also met with Sri Lanka Freedom Party members residing in Japan.
Meanwhile, President Mahinda Rajapaksa has also spoken with Xi Jinping, the newly appointed President of China, to wish him all success during his tenure of office. The President had discussed matters of mutual interest with his Chinese counterpart with a view to strengthen bilateral relations. Moving on to more local news, the Election Secretariat has decided to increase the number of parliamentary seats in the Nuwara district by 1 according to the 2012 electoral list. The decision has been based on the ratio of land area to population density.
Additional Elections Commissioner RMAL Ratnayaka said that according to the 2012 voters list, there are 507,693 eligible voters in the Nuwara district. Accordingly, the number of parliamentary seats in the Nuwara district will be increased to 7. Meanwhile, it has been decided to reduce the number of parliamentary seats in the Badulla district by 1. The Additional Elections Commissioner said that there are 595,532 eligible voters in the Badulla district. Accordingly, the number of parliamentary seats in the Badulla district will be reduced to 8. Additional Elections Commissioner RMAL Ratnayaka said that according to the 2012 voters list, the number of eligible voters in the island is 14.4 million and 51,264.
Former President Chandrika Kumaratunga says that wastage and corruption have led to the increased cost of living in the country. She made this statement at an event held in Attanagalla this morning.
Dry rations were distributed among low-income families in the Attanagala electorate by former President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga today in view of the 5th death anniversary of the late Anura Bandaranayake.
බණ්ඩාරනායකවරු දූෂණය කෙරුවේ නැහැ. අපි අවංකව රට පාලනය කෙරුවා. අපේ තියෙන ඒවත් දීලා දැන් වැඩි හරියක් ජීවනතක්.
The Bandaranayakas were not corrupt. We governed the country with honesty. We even gave what we had. I too governed this country for close to 12 years, and it seems evident to me that if the limitless corruption and the thievery of those in power is stopped, then the government can save a lot more money. From every development venture, 50% is claimed by corruption. It is this money that the government has lost. Thereby a situation where the country cannot be governed has been created. We are thankful to the government for stopping the war. But ministers who used to have 5 vehicles now have 10, 15 or 20. Wastage has led to the increase in the cost of living. In my time, we governed the country in the midst of a destructive war, and we brought down high-priced armaments. General Sarath Fonseca has said that most of the war was won using armaments brought down in my time. Even after doing this, we were able to rein in the cost of living.
මගේ කාලේ මම ගෙන්නපු අභියායුධ වලින් තමයි වැඩි හරියක් යුද්ධ දිනුවේ කියලා. එහෙම කරලත් මීට වැඩිය බඩු මිල අපි සීමා කරන්න පුළුවන් වුණා.
Let's now take a look at the newspaper cartoon of the day. UNP parliamentarian Rosie Senanayake says that Sri Lankan women will not be able to secure more political representation unless they fight for their rights. The MP made this statement at an event held in Colombo last evening.
An open forum on the subject, Getting the Balance Right, Gender Equality and Political Representation of Women, was held at the Sri Lanka Foundation Institute in Colombo last evening.
At every election, the party manifestos would, I know my party has periodically had a separate manifesto for women, and in these manifestos it has been said that we would give 33% and we would, work for the betterment of women. But the present government also, in their last election manifesto and the previous election manifesto, promised to give 25% nominations to women, but it didn't happen, so it doesn't happen unless the women in this country would seriously look at, fighting for their rights. When it comes to actually women's rights or talking about women in the decision-making realm, there's very few people would have a dialogue with regard to that.